Good evening and welcome to Sunday Tech Series 2, hosted by School of Technology Management and Engineering, NMIMS Indore. Today's webinar is based on programming language Python, and the topic of this session is getting started with Python. For the folks gathered with us, I'd like to tell you that Python is mostly used all across the world. You may not even realize how widespread it is. Python is easy to learn, clear to read, and simple to write in. This speeds up development without sacrificing reliability or scalability. Thanks to high demand for Python, it's also very well supported in community and keeps on growing in popularity. We as learners are here to explore this language as far as our interest takes us. There are more than 500 registrations, not only from India, but from different parts of the world, like USA, Saudi Arabia, Oman, etc. The session will last for 2 hours. Participants are requested to write their name in chat box when they are instructed to. Now, let's take a glimpse of STME NMIMS Indore through a short video. We are glad to inform you all that today we have the Dean of MPSTME NMIMS University here. She leads programs of engineering at all campuses. Ma'am, we are very fortunate to have you here today. Now, I take this opportunity to introduce our Dean, Dr. Alka Mahajan, MPSTME NMIMS University. She has an experience of over 3 decades in teaching and academic administration in the field of electronics and communication engineering. She is a member of General Council, the principal authority of NBA, part of Academic Council and Research Committee, member of Global Dean's Council, and has been involved in developing and implementing innovative and meaningful programs for education sector. Now, I request Honorable Dean Ma'am to address and motivate us by her words of wisdom.
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. The director of the Mukesh Patel School of Technology, Management and Engineering Indore campus, Dr. Prachi Gharpure, Professor Akil, the faculty colleagues, student organizers, and the participant students. A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm very happy that the students of STME Indore campus have taken this initiative of organizing webinars on programming languages. I think it is a need of the day uh, for the school children to be aware of what is happening in the technology world. And to that effect, this initiative of our students is certainly laudable. It tells me that you student organizers are capable of thinking differently. I'm very happy that this initiative comes at a right time when we have students of 10th and 12th standard in schools, as well as the first year and second year engineering students participating in this webinar. Because I feel it is important that we become aware of where the world is going, what is happening to technology, and kind of get prepared for it. I'm already told that the first webinar, which I guess happened on C++ programming language, went very well. It was received very well. And I'm happy that the second webinar is on Python programming. Python, as I understand and as you will understand over the years, is a very simple yet very powerful language. It is simple because it is easy to read, it is easy to write. When you look at the other programming languages which are syntactical in nature, you find that over a period of time, it becomes kind of irritating to program and then get stuck up with the various syntax errors. And as you write lengthier programs, it becomes more and more difficult to use these languages, though they are very powerful. Python, on the contrary, is easy to use. If you, I'm sure the students would get you through various programming exercises, but you'll note a difference when there is a simple thing like, let us say you want to print hello. So when you write this particular sentence or whenever you want to give this command in any programming languages like C++, there are at least 2 to 3 lines of codes that are required. Whereas when you do it in Python, it is simple print and hello. So it is as simple as that. Does not mean that it is not powerful. It is very powerful in machine learning applications, in various advanced applications. Though yes, it is a bit slower when you consider C++ and the likes of it. But at the same time, it is said that when you take a concerned decision about which language to use, they say that you must use Python wherever and when you can, whereas you can use C++ when you must use it. So it basically depends. What I'm trying to say here is it depends on your application. So I'm sure that this webinar is going to be very useful to you school students as well as my first year and second year students, because once you are conversant with Python, you will find that the computing world opens up for you. And the world of artificial intelligence, the application of machine learning, deep learning, all becomes very simple with Python. Having said that, I must really appreciate the participants for being open enough to come forward and attend these webinars in these times, because this will give you an edge over your batchmates. When you enter an engineering school or any of the graduate programs of your choice, you will find that you have a distinct advantage over your peers. It is very important in these times when we are most of the time online, that you actually make use of the technology that is at your fingertips. If you look at the School of STME as we call it here, the Indore campus or the Mumbai campus or any of our campuses, NMIMS University has always been known for being flexible in its approach. We believe in giving choices to our students, and it is important in these times when technology is moving ahead and students are exposed to so many choices that they should be able to pursue a line or profession of their choice. And I'm very happy to inform all of you that at NMIMS University and particularly at the School of Technology, we have many programs which actually give you this choice. Be it when the world is just thinking about machine learning and artificial intelligence, we have also already come up with graduate and postgraduate programs in data science, in machine learning, AI, computer science, clubbed with industrial programs. So all these collaborations, I'm sure my student organizers will also make you aware of these programs. And this webinar definitely will be a plus for you. But a word of caution here, while it is always very important and useful to understand and learn programming languages, what according to me as a teacher is most important is for you to understand that programming is always a second step. The first step is learning to think logically. And I use the word learning very carefully here because thinking and logical thinking are two different things. And when you think of yourself as developers or when you think of yourself as engineers, it is important to understand that we must develop a logical thinking ability. It is only then that we will be able to solve problems. Learning a language is a tool, whereas learning to think logically, learning to think critically, learning problem solving skills, and basically learning and understanding how to approach a problem is, according to me, the most important step. So while you learn programming, understand and appreciate that you also need to think of how to solve a problem and then how to apply the language that you have learned to solve it. My best wishes to the team, the student team. I am really very happy and very proud that you have come out with this initiative. And these are the times when the students are free, relatively free, I would say, in these COVID times when we are stuck at our homes. This is the time when we make use of these opportunities. And in these times, the Indore campus has come out with this excellent initiative, which I'm sure will be a learning experience both for the student organizers as well as the participants. So happy learning all of you, and thank you very much for inviting me here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for motivating and enlightening us. Also, I would
Thank
like
you,
to
madam.
thank our campus
Thank you
director,
very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Prachi Garpure, and our associate dean, Dr. Akhil Banglowala, for gracing this occasion by their presence. Now, without any delay, I'd like to hand over charge to our experts. Our session experts for today are Mr. Dhanay Turakhia from MBA Tech 4th year and Mr. Saksham Mehta from MBA Tech 3rd year, STME NMIMS Indore. Hope you all enjoy the session.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Utpal. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. Before getting started with Python, I would like to tell you a little bit more about programming languages in general. Learn any programming language, you need to learn two things, logic and the syntax. Syntax refers to checking whether the sentence is valid with regards to the grammar of the language, whereas logic refers to knowing whether the sentence has a valid meaning. As Alka ma'am very well explained earlier, the emphasis on logic is a lot. For people who know any other programming language or recently attended the webinar conducted by our colleagues on Java, the syntax is the only thing you will need to focus on. Programming helps you develop an appreciation of how things work. It enables one to solve problems in a logical and creative way. Today, more than ever, the need and demand for professionals who can code is at its peak. With the coronavirus pandemic still on the rise, each and every one of us has been impacted in one way or another. But the only industry which has flourished all throughout is the IT industry. Not only does programming enable one to work remotely, but it also enhances one's skill and ability to tackle everyday problems. What is Python? Python is an object-oriented, interpreted, and high-level programming language. Python was conceived in the late 1980s by Guido van Rossum at Central Wiskunde in Informatica in the Netherlands, but it wasn't implemented until the year 1989. And hearing the word Python, the first thing that comes to your mind is the snake, right? Well, let me tell you something. Contrary to the popular belief, the word Python does not come from the name of the snake. Instead, it comes from the comedy group Monty Python, who created a sketch comedy television show called Monty Python's Flying Circus, which aired on BBC in the year 1969. Python, from the very beginning, was designed to be highly extensible. This modularity has made it particularly popular as a means of adding programmable interfaces to existing applications. It is considered one of the simpler programming languages due to its less cluttered syntax and grammar by providing the developers with a choice in their coding methodology.
Many of today's most successful companies are choosing Python over any other programming language. Google, Instagram, Spotify, Netflix, and even NASA are using Python for development. All these companies belong to very different sectors and work in very different domains. This shows how diverse the use of Python is. The recent statistics show that Python is growing exponentially. It is one of the most popular programming languages in world today. A research tells that Python is the most searched programming language on Google. Now, coming to the applications of Python, it is used in almost every domain. Let it be data analysis, web development, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. How could I miss this? Python is also used in game development and 3D graphics. Python is one of the core languages used to build PUBG, an online gaming app.
Hey Saksham, why does Python live on land?
Let me think. I don't know.
Because it is above sea level.
Not funny, Dhanay.
Coming in front of you is a question for you, just for our reference as to how many people have already installed Python and the Jupyter Notebook. The question will be in front of you soon. As you can see, the question asks if you've installed Python and Jupyter Notebook. We've given you a time of 1 minute. Please answer. This is just for our reference, so that we know how many of us we need to help out with. Still got 20 seconds left. Last few seconds. Just collecting the results. It's great to say that more than 50% of you people have already installed Python and were able to open the Jupyter notebook. Seeing that we still have a lot of people who are not able to do so, we're going to show you once again exactly how to install it and start the Jupyter notebook. First, you go to the website www.python.org/downloads. I'm going to put the link in the chat box for everyone's reference. Here, please click on Download Python 3.8.3. The download should start and it should not take more than a few seconds since it's not a very big file. Click on the setup as soon as it's done. You should come to this screen. Please wait before clicking on Install Now. Before you do that, I want you to make sure that you tick the box beneath asking you to add Python 3.8 to path. Please make sure that you tick the box. Once you're done with that, click on Install Now. As a high-level and interpreted language, Python does not need a compiler. This is unlike Java and C++, which have to be compiled first before being interpreted. For people who had already pre-installed Python before the session's briefing, please ensure that you set the path or delete the existing version of Python on your PC and install this with us. Once it's installed, let's first check that it's installed and ready for use. For that, open your command prompt by typing cmd in the search bar and hitting enter. Once you reach this screen, I want you to type Python, Python, Python. And as soon as you do that, it should tell you the version of the Python that you've installed, which is 3.8.3. Hey Saksham, what do you do next?
Once this is done, you'll have entered the Python shell, which you will need to exit before downloading Jupyter. So just type exit with an open and close brackets. Then type the command Python space -m pip install upgrade pip. I'm going to repeat it once again. Python space -m space pip install upgrade pip and hit enter. And now that we are up to date, we can go further into installing Jupyter Notebook. Type the command Python -m pip install notebook. This should take a little while, approximately 2 to 3 minutes, not more than that. Dhanay, by that time, could you tell us a little bit about Jupyter Notebook?
Absolutely, Saksham. The Jupyter Notebook is an open source web application that you can use to create and share documents that contain live code, equations, visualizations, and text. The name Jupyter comes from the programming languages that it supports, which is Julia, Python, and R. Code execution on the Jupyter Notebook is as simple as pressing two buttons. I mean it. On holding the control button and smashing the enter button, you will be able to run the code cells. You will realize what we mean by code cells once we get started on the Jupyter Notebook. Now, in case you were still unable to install the notebook or are having any troubles with it, it's completely alright. And you can use the online version of Jupyter. To access that, please go to the website collab.research.google.com. I've put the link in the chat box for your reference. Collaboratory, or Collab for short, allows you to write and execute Python in your browser with zero configuration required, free access to GPUs, and easy sharing. If you're using this mode, you probably won't be able to see any images that we have put in the notebook. I request you to kindly pay attention on our screen for explanations and go to the notebook to code only when we ask you to. To upload the notebook here, you simply click on upload, which is on the top right of your screen, and choose the IPYNB file that we sent you along with the pre-read. Now, to start the Jupyter notebook, for those who are able to install it, I want you to open the command prompt once again. And type the command Jupyter notebook. Now, as soon as you do that, something like this should open up. This is the Jupyter running on your local host, which is your local machine. Now, I want all of you to go exactly where you saved your IPYNB file and select that. We have installed it on our desktop. If you haven't downloaded the IPYNB file or are having troubles finding it, it's all right. We'll wait for a few seconds for you to get settled. If you have any questions, I want you to put them in the chat box tagging all panelists. Now, I hope you were able to open the notebook here or in Collab, wherever you choose to run the file. Great. I know all of you have been waiting to code yourself, and I'm not going to hold you back any longer.
In this tutorial, we will be covering comments in Python, how to take inputs from users, data types, operators, loops, functions, and we'll also make a small game. Now let's get started. Just to show how Python is different to other programming languages, I have shown here a code in Java in the first cell and a code in Python in the next cell, which computes the sum of two numbers. Java needs at least 7 to 8 lines to do this task, while Python does the job in just 3 lines. It's great, isn't it? Now, to run the cell, you just have to click on the corresponding cell and press Ctrl and Enter.
Comments in Python. Comments can be used to explain Python code. Comments can be used to make the code more readable. A comment starts with a hash symbol, and if we use a comment, Python's interpreter will ignore it. In Python, we can print any statement or value by using a print statement, as you can see on the screen. That's how easy it is. Make sure you hit the Control and Enter to run the cell. Coming on to taking inputs. Input in Python. In this case, we wish to take the input from the user and assign the entered value to a variable. Variable is a symbolic name associated with a value. We have here with us a practice cell for you to complete using a simple statement. In the practice cell, I want you to take the variable name, NAME, as the variable. And since we want the input to be taken from the user, we type input with open and close parentheses. And inside the brackets, we type what we want the user to see as a question of what it's asking. So in this case, we're just going to write, what's your name? You can check the screen if you have any issues. Here, I want you to type your name.
Now, we are ready to learn data types in Python. There are two broad categories of data type, mutable and immutable. Value of a mutable data type can be changed once assigned, and an immutable data type is just the opposite, whose value cannot be changed once assigned. In the diagram above, we have the main data types in Python: numbers, strings, tuples, lists, dictionary, and sets. Now to start off, we have numbers. Numbers includes integers, floating point numbers, which are decimal point numbers, and complex numbers.
Since we're having a lot of queries regarding the Jupyter notebook, we're going to show you once more how to open the notebook. I want you to go to the command prompt and type Jupyter notebook. It's Jupyter with a Y. Please take care of that. And as you hit enter, it will show you all your folders that are in your PC. From these folders, I want you to go to the place where you saved the IPYNB file that we sent you along with the pre-read. In our case, we've saved it on our desktop. Going below, you can see that it's the file with the IPYNB extension. I want you to click on that file.
Now, let's continue. So, numbers includes integers, floating point numbers that are decimal point numbers, and complex numbers. Here in the given cell, I have taken three variables A, B, and C and have assigned them different values. For variable A, I have assigned an integer value. For variable B, I have assigned a decimal point value. And for variable C, I have assigned a complex number. So I'm just printing all the values together, just using a print statement with open and close parentheses. Now you have to enter Control plus Enter. So here we get the result on the screen. Now we want you all to fill the values of the three variables in the given next cell. Variable 1 should be an integer type, variable 2 should be a floating point number, and variable 3 should be a complex number. For your reference, you can always see into the screen. Don't forget that you always have to do Control plus Enter to run the cell. I hope all of you have written the code. So, coming on to strings. String is a data type which is used to represent text rather than numbers. Python accepts single, double, and even triple quotes to represent string data type. In this cell, I have a variable A and have assigned a string using the single quotes and have written hello world in it. And I'm printing it. I'm printing the variable A. Hit Control Enter. In the next cell, I have practice cell. So there's a variable B with a single quotes. I want you all to write in a string, any string, and just print it on the screen for your practice. I'm printing my name and hitting Control Enter again. So as you can see, we have the result on the screen. Now let's jump on to our next data type, that is list. List is a collection of other data types. Yeah, a list can store multiple values at once. We use square brackets to represent a list. Here in the cell, I have a variable named myList and I have assigned it, I've declared it using the square brackets to a list and have the elements as one, a number, a string, I have a string, hi, and I have another element which is a list and which has elements 1, 2, and 3. So when I print this, I get my list within the square bracket. You can access a single element of a list, tuple, or a set by using index value. Consider index to be the position of an element. In programming, the position starts from 0 instead of 1. So I have a comment at the end of my cell. I'm going to uncomment it and try to run it. Here, to access the first element of my list, I have entered 0 as the index starts from 0 to access my first element of the list, and it has printed 1. Moving on, we have tuple. Tuple is very similar to a list, just that we use small brackets instead of square brackets, and the values once assigned cannot be changed as it is an immutable data type. In the cell, I have declared a tuple named my tuple using the small bracket, sorry, and have the elements to be the same as in the previous cell, and I have printed that on the screen. I hope you are running the cell and typing the code with me. Now, a set is a collection which is unordered and unindexed. It's a little unique kind of data set. It doesn't remember the order of elements and stores only the unique elements. It deletes every element that repeats. A set is represented using curly brackets. Here in the cell, I have a variable mySet, and I have declared a set using the curly brackets. As you can see, I have repeated one element. I have typed orange 2 times. So as I told you, it only keeps the unique elements. When I run it and print it, I get only the unique elements. It has deleted all the elements that repeat. I hope you all have done it. Remember that you have to run a cell, you always have to hit Control plus Enter. Now, dictionary is a kind of interesting data type. This is exactly similar to a normal dictionary. As we have a word and a meaning for it in a normal dictionary, similarly, here we have a key and a value for it. We use curly brackets to represent a dictionary as well. And we use a colon to separate a key from its value. Now, in the given cell, just remember that dictionary comprises of key value pairs. I have declared a dictionary with name my dictionary. Within the curly brackets, I have my key as my name in the strings and its value to be Saksham, again in the strings. And I've separated the next element with a comma and have my next element to be age as key and 20 as its value. Okay. Then when I run the cell, I get my dictionary printed on the screen. Second, I want you all to read my second comment. We use key to access the elements. Yeah, instead of index, we use key name here to access each element of a dictionary. I have used my name as the key value within the square brackets to access my first element, and it has printed my name on the screen. That is Saksham. Now we have poll 2.
This poll is going to be related to what you just studied. I don't want you to get worked up. This is not a test. It's not a quiz, not a competition. We just want you to answer. As you can see, the question suggests, is dictionary a mutable data type? Still have 30 seconds left. I just want you to attempt the question. Completely all right if it's not correct. Last 5 seconds. Please answer quickly. All right, we're just collecting the results now. Correct answer for the previous question was dictionary is a mutable data type. And more than 50%, around 60% of you have answered correctly. It's great to see that. But I still see that around 20% of you have not answered anything. I hope to see more participation in the upcoming polls. Moving on to operators. Operators are special symbols in Python that carry out arithmetic or logical computation. The value that the operator operates on is called the operand. In Python, we typically have 7 operators: arithmetic, comparison, logical, bitwise, assignment, membership, and identity. But in this session, we're only going to discuss 4 of them, as membership, identity, and bitwise require a little higher level of programming knowledge. Coming on to the assignment operator. Assignment operator is the most basic and used operator. What it does is assigns values from the right operand to the left side operand. That's just it. That's literally all it does. Now, I've got a little assignment for you in the assignment operator. I want you to use logical reasoning to figure out the value of Z. Once you've done that in your mind, I want you to write the code to print the value of Z. If you're having troubles, feel free to peep into our screen and duplicate the code. As I mentioned earlier, it's as easy as just writing print and Z. I hope you were able to print the answer and you got the answer logically in your mind, the same thing. Great. Moving further, we have arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators, as you can see on your screen, we have provided you with the command a equals 2 plus 3. Here, a is the variable in which we wish to store the value that is a result of our operation. 2 and 3 here are called operands, and the plus sign is called the operator. Other arithmetic operations that can be performed are subtraction, multiplication, division, exponentiate, integer divide, and mod or modulus. Now, I want all of you to first try other operators, and then we're going to make a simple calculator which will take input from the user and give the result as an output. Now I'm using the first code cell to try out all the other operators. If you want, you can look into our screen or try it yourself. As you can see, I'm using the plus operator first, printing the value of A, which is 5. Now I'm going to replace the value plus with a minus, 2 minus 3, which will give the answer -1. Absolutely correct. Next, coming on to the multiplication operator, it's denoted by an asterisk sign. 2 into 3 should return the value 6. I hope you're doing it along with me. Next, coming on to the division operator, the backward slash. 2 divided by 3, giving us the answer 0.66666. The division operator will always give you a floating point answer. Now, what if I don't want a floating point answer? I want the numbers after the point to be neglected. For that, we have a different operator. It's called the integer divide or float division. For that, it's denoted by double backslash. That's it. In this case, if we neglect the digits after the point, we should get 0, right? Let's try and run it. 0 it is. Now, let's try the exponentiate operator, which is denoted by a double asterisk sign. Exponent raises the left operand to the power of the right. In this case, we're assuming 2 and 3 to be the operands. This should clearly return the answer 2 to the power 3, which is 8. That's exactly what we're getting. Perfect. Coming on to the modulus operator. This is denoted by the percentage sign, and it gives us the remainder of the division of the two operands. Let's take some other operands for this example. Let's take 10 modulus 3. All of us here know that if 10 is divided by 3, we get the remainder 1. Now let's try and run the cell. 1. Perfect. Now that you know all the operators, as I promised you earlier, we're going to create a simple calculator. In the cells below, you can see the code for taking input and putting them into two separate value variables, A and B, is already given. But what I want you to do is type the command for the operation. For the first practice cell, I want the answer to have been added of the two variables. I want you to type print, open the bracket, type A plus B. A and B are the two variables we're using here. In case you've noticed, in both cases, we've written int before the input statement. That is because the input by default is a string value. So to use it as a number, we need to convert it to integer type. This in Python is called typecasting. Now, I want you to move on to the next cell without running the first cell. Here, I want you to write the print command, but this time we're going to subtract the two values that we're taking above. So again, we write the statement print. And then in the brackets, we put A minus B. That's it. I hope you're following along with me and not running any of the code cells. Now, on the third code cell, we want the code cell to return a value which is the multiplication of the two variables that we're choosing. Here, again, we write print, we open the bracket, we write A asterisk sign B. That's it. Again, I don't want you to run the code cells yet. In the fourth code cell, we want it to return the division of the two variables. For that, we type print, we open the bracket, we write A /B. That's it. This will give us the answer, which is the division of A by B. Now, going back to the first cell, integer is written before the input statement because by default, input takes the input that we give in is a string value. To use it as a number, since we're making a calculator, we're going to have to use the input as a number. To make it into a number, we need to convert it to integer type. To do so, we use the keyword int. This is called typecasting. Now, I hope you were able to do till here. And if you were, congratulations, you made yourself a simple calculator. Now, let's try it. Depending upon whichever operation you wanted to perform, you choose the code cell. If you want your code to perform an addition operator, you run the first cell. You run the cell by hitting Control and Enter. It's going to ask you for your first number. Let's take it as 5. On hitting Enter, it'll ask you for your second number. Let's consider it to be 4. And on hitting Enter, it's going to give you the added value, which is 9. I want you to try this out with me. You can run any of these 4 code cells that you wish to perform the operation. Let's try subtracting the two values. On the second code cell, hit Control and Enter. Asking for the first number. Let's give it 7. And the second number to be 2. 7 minus 2 should return 5. Exactly as expected. Trying the third code cell. Let's try the multiplication operator. Hit Control Enter. The first number is 3. You can take any number you want. The second, let's suppose, is 4. I'm getting the multiplied value, which is 12. Let's also try the division. Hit Control and Enter. Let's take the first value as 10 and the second value as 4. Perfect. We're getting exactly the output that we expected, 2.5. If you found this to be fun, you're really going to enjoy what you'll be able to do at the end of the session. Moving on to comparison operators. These operators compare the values on either sides of them and decide the relation among them. They basically give us an idea of what's greater or is equal or is not equal to. Here, we've given you the equals to, greater than, and not equals to operator as an example. Taking x and y as variables, we compare the two values stored in the variables. Since it is only a comparison, it returns a Boolean value, which is true or false. Let's go ahead and run the code cell. In this case, x is 5 and y is 3, which are not equal, and hence the first statement will return false. As you can see from the results, 5 is greater than 3 and hence it's returning true. And the third output is when we're asking if x is not equal to y. Since we know that x is 5 and y is 3, this is also true. Moving further to logical operators. Logical operators include and, or, and not. For people who don't know this, please let me tell you. And, or, and not operators are literally what they mean in the English language. Let me explain a little further. The and operator, when you say and, first of all, you're talking about two or more things, two or more conditions, or two or more variables. Could be n number of things. Just like when you would say that you want an apple and a banana. What you mean is you want both of them, right? Yes. So just like that, using the AND operator in programming, you want two or more conditions to be satisfied. Now, coming to the code, I know some of you must have already run the code, and it's completely all right. The reason we provided you with the notebook is that you could learn at your own pace. As you can see in the result, the two conditions we're talking about are is x greater than 3 and is x smaller than 10. Considering we have taken the value of x as 5, it should return true. And it does. Perfect. Moving on to the OR operator. OR is used when you will be satisfied when you get either one of the conditions to be fulfilled. Taking the same example as before, earlier you wanted an apple and a banana, both of them. But this time you'll be satisfied if you get either one. Here we're considering if x is greater than 3 or x is smaller than 1. Now, we know that x is definitely not smaller than 1, but it is greater than 3. Hence, we get true as an output. Coming up next, we have another poll for you. I would request all of you to please punch in your answers in the allotted time of 1 minute. If you have any queries, please put them in the chat box, tagging all panelists. The question is, which operator is used for integer division? Still got 20 seconds. Please punch in your answers and don't be afraid to be incorrect. We've got the results here, and 50% of you have answered correctly, which was the double backward slash.
I hope you guys are having fun learning Python. Moving on, we have conditional statements. I want to explain just a single thing before moving on. So, indentation refers to the spaces at the beginning of a code line, which we give using the tab key. There are some basic logical conditions in mathematics that we will use here, like equal to, less than equal to, greater than, and greater than equal to. Let us understand it more clearly with a flow diagram. We have an if condition in the start. Condition can be anything from the above mentioned mathematical logical conditions. Let us assume if to be the first, elif to be the second, and else to be the third condition. If the first condition is true, we perform some action. If the first condition is false, we go to the next condition, that is elif. Now, if this condition is true, we perform some action. Then the last condition. If any of the previous conditions is not true, we perform a different action. Let's take an example. If my marks are between 90 to 100, I get an A grade. If my marks are between 80 to 90, I get a B grade, and so on. Now, to understand the syntax of the conditional statements, I want you all type in the code along with me. I have used a variable A and assigned it a value of 100. Then I have taken a second variable B and assigned it a value of 200. Then I want to type in the conditions, the conditional statements. The first one is if condition. Now if A is greater than B, then we have to enter a colon at the end of the condition. Then hit enter. You will notice that we have a indentation space after the if condition when we hit enter. This is really important, guys. Always keep this in mind. So if A is greater than B, we print out as A is greater than B. It's simple, guys. Now, the second condition, elif bracket A is less than B, colon, we print A is less than, B. Now coming on to the last condition, else, colon, we actually don't have the last condition. If both of the previous conditions are false, we come to the next condition, which is else. So else, colon, hit enter, print A is equal to B. Now, to run the cell, hit Control Enter. As the value of A is less than B, as A was 100 and B was 200, we get the result as A is less than B. This is correct. Now we have a poll 4 for you all to answer. Coming on your screens. Get ready, guys.
This is a question regarding the conditional statements we just studied. We want you to answer whatever you think is the correct answer. But please make sure you answer.
Guys, take your time. Only 20 seconds left. Faster, guys, faster. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now collecting the answers.
We realize the questions may not be completely visible on phones. It's all right. Around 70% of you, it's great to see that around 70% of you actually answered correctly. The answer was 4.98, which was the first option.
Coming on to loops in Python. Loop is a concept in programming which allows us to run a piece of code, which is an action, for a desired number of times. For example, I put on a song on repeat on YouTube. Python has two primitive loop commands, which is while loop and for loop. Now to start with, we have while loop. With the while loop, we can execute a set of statements, a block of code, as long as a condition is true. In the cell, I've already written the code for you guys. I want you to understand. Here in the cell, we are printing I, the value of I, as long as I is less than 6. We have taken a variable I and assigned it a value 1. Then we have a while loop with a condition if I is less than 6, then again colon. Then we have an indentation space as we are writing inside the while loop. We are printing the value of I each time a while loop runs and incrementing it by 1 each time the while loop runs. So it should print starting from 1 till 5 on the screen. Here it is. I hope you all have ran the cell. Waiting for a few seconds. Okay. Now we have for loops. For loops are traditionally used when you have a block of code which you want to repeat a fixed number of times. To loop through a set of code a specified number of times, we can use the range function. The range function returns a sequence of numbers starting from 0 by default and increments by 1, which is also by default, and ends at a specified number. We have a third parameter, which is step size. Step size is the value by which we increase the value of the variable, which in the cell we have it to be x. So in all, we have total 3 parameters which goes into the range function: the starting point, the end point, and the step size. Always remember, in Python, the end point is always 1 less than the number passed as the parameter. Like in the cell, we have it to be 30, and actually Python takes it to be 29. So here in the cell, we have written for x, a variable in range starting at 2 till 30, which is actually 29, and the step size to be 3, by which we increment the value of x. When we print it, we get the values starting from 2, then incrementing it by 3, and getting it to be 5, and printing all the way till 29. In Python, For loops are generally used for iterating over a sequence or accessing each element of a sequence. That is either a list, a tuple, a dictionary, a set, or a string. With the for loop, we can execute a set of commands once for each item in a list, tuple, set, etc. Now, coming on to the cell, I've already written the code. Here, I have declared a list with the name fruits. Now, what I'm doing here is for x, we have we are assigning the value x variable to each element of the list one by one. So for x in fruits, which is our list, we print the value of x and it prints out every element of the list. That is apple, banana, and cherry. Always remember to keep learning Python in an infinite loop. This is how we think logically, isn't it, Dhanay?
Absolutely. I hope all of you have been comfortable with our speed and how we're going about the Jupyter Notebook. Moving on to functions. Function is a block of organized, reusable code that is used to perform a single related action. It only runs when it's called. We use functions to make the code easier to comprehend and divide it into segments which can be called repeatedly. Let me give you a real-life example. Think of a function as a plumber or an electrician, right? They have the specialties and jobs they're particularly great at, well, generally speaking. So, they're there, but you only call them when you need them. Similarly, a function is a block of code which does not do anything to your program unless it's being called to do the specific tasks it does. In Python, there are two kinds of functions, user-defined and built-in. Its built-in functions are one of the biggest attractions for the new age programmers. First, we're going to start with the user-defined functions. This is when a user, such as yourself, will be telling the function what to do when it is called. To create a user-defined function, use the keyword def, def, to declare the function, and follow this up by the function name. Here, we're going to name it my function. The function name is ended by open and close parentheses. This is used to give the function parameters. In this case, we're not going to give any parameters and hence it will remain empty. After the parentheses, put a colon. It indicates that our code for the function starts here. Since this is our first function, we will just make it print hello from the function. I want you to type just that. Type print, bracket open, inverted commas, hello from function. I hope you're writing it along with me. And once you're done, we need to come back to our main code. To do that, you press enter and then backspace. This will take you out of the function. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you need to call the function. Calling is done simply by typing the function name along with the brackets. And then you can run the cell by pressing Ctrl and Enter. As you can see, you've got the function to perform the print task. In the next cell, we've provided you with the code of a function with parameters. Parameters are variables that we wish to pass in the function. The values of these variables need to be put while calling the function. In this case, x and y are the parameters. We're passing in the function, and the function is adding the two variables and assigning the value to C. The return statement is an indicator the function is ending here and the value it's providing is in the variable C. Now we're going to try calling the function. As you can see, we've used the function name along with the values that we wish to pass in the function. Go ahead and try it. We've taken the variables x and y, and later we put the values 4 and 5. You can go ahead and try this function with different parameter values. You can change the value 4 and 5 into any numbers you like. Let's just take another example and edit the values to 6 and 9. On running, we get the added value of 15. I want you to try it out yourself and change the values of the parameters. Once you've tried that out, we're going to come into built-in functions. Python has many built-in functions. We're going to show you a few here today. This will give you a glimpse of how powerful Python really is. The abs function returns the absolute value of the number you pass through it. For example, we're taking the integer value to be minus 20. Now we're going to pass it through the abs function and we're going to run the code. On running the code cell, just look at the first value. Don't go beneath that. In the answers, you can see we've got the absolute value of the integer we passed through it. And it's 20. Right. The bin function returns the binary value of the decimal value you pass through it. Let's try it. We know that the binary value of 3 is 1, 1. But let's try and get that by coding. Write the print keyword and then just pass x the built-in function. As you can see on the output, 0b11. 0b denotes that it's the binary value and 11 is the binary value of 3. Sum function, as you may have realized, returns the sum of the values passed through it. Here, we will be passing the values in a list. Here, we're taking the list and with its elements 1, 2, 3, and 4. When we're printing and using the sum function, we're passing the list S in it. As you can see, we get the output 10. This is the sum of all the elements in the list. Moving further, we have the length function. This returns the numeric value of the length of the string you pass through it, and hence it returns an integer number. Here, we've taken the variable str and we've assigned the value string to it. As you can count, string has 6 characters, which is also the length of the string. On printing out using the function len, we get the answer 6. The list function creates an empty list. We can view the empty list by just printing out list with an open and close bracket. As you can see here, we've printed out an empty list. Now, what if the list is given parameters? The list function, when given a parameter within the brackets, converts it into a list. Here, we're converting the string A, B, C, D into a list. Just for that, we just write print, and inside parentheses, we write list, and then the name of the variable. As you can see, it's divided the string into different characters. These are the elements of the list. They may seem harmless right now, but once you start coding for projects, you'll realize the value of all these built-in functions. The built-in functions was actually one of the biggest reasons I got hooked on Python.
Great, we have completed with basics in Python. Learned a lot. Now, the fun part begins. Let's do it. Now, we are ready to build a small project, which is a dice rolling simulator. With this project, I only want to build logical thinking and learn to apply it using Python. What we will do is that we will roll a dice 3 times for 2 players and check who has the greater cumulative score. I want you all to type the code in this cell along with me. Just wait for a few seconds.
I hope you're having fun till now. This dice simulator game, it's going to be a multiplayer game where the simulator is going to roll the dice for us 3 times. And with each time we roll the dice, it's going to add value. And at the end of the third time, it's going to give us with a score. And by comparing the scores, we'll decide who's the winner.
For this project, we need to import 2 libraries, random and time. Just type in import random and import time. We take 2 inputs for the player's name. We use input function to take in the input from the user. Now same goes for the player 2.
We're going to take it really slow so that you can write the code along with us.
We want to keep playing the game for 3 dice rolls. To count the number of times a dice is rolled, we declare a variable count and initiate it to be equal to 0. To be 1, sorry. We need 2 more variables to keep the count of players' scores. Player 1 score equals 0 and player 2 score also equals 0. I want to check if the count is less than or equal to 3. Until that, keep running the game. So what will we use here? You all guessed it right, a while loop. we must add a condition to the while loop, that is, if count is less than or equal to 3. If count is less than equal to 3, we keep on playing. Now inside the while loop, we then increment the value of count by 1 each time the player rolls the dice. We will be adding some print statements just to give it the feel of a game. Rolling the dice. This looks nice. We use time.sleep to pause the process or just pause the screen for 5 number of seconds.
I hope you're able to follow along as we're typing.
Now we generate a random number between 1 to 6 for each player, just like a dice. We do this by using random.randint, as we imported a library which we are also going to cover in the next part. We have stored the value for both the players in two different variables. Chance 1 for the player 1 and chance 2 for the player 2. There are two parameters that goes into random.randint function. One, the minimum value, and 6 to be the maximum value. We then add the scores. Okay, so now we again write some print statements so that it looks like a game. I know this is silly, but the output and the result will be good. I hope you all are writing along with us. We then add the scores with the previous scores to generate a cumulative score. Player 1 score plus equal to chance 1. Chance 1 stores the value that the player 1 rolled. Same goes for the player 2. Now we want to print out the new scores every time. Finally, we exit. Okay, just one more print statement. We are printing the new scores. Finally, we want to check for the winner. For doing this, we first leave the body of while loop. To compare the scores, we need to use the if-else conditions, right? Yes. So we are going to write the if-else conditions to compare the scores of both the players. If player 1's score is greater than player 2's score, we print out player 1 wins. If player 1's score is less than we are printing here the name of the player that won, which is player 1, and we want to print a string along with it. So we added using the inverted commas, that is wins. And the player 1's name we have stored as player 1 with no space. So player 1, comma, a string wins. If player 1's score is less than player 2's score, we print player 2, which is the variable in which we have stored the name of the player 2, wins. Else we know the match draws. So we print out match draw in strings, as it is not a variable that we are printing.
I'm going to give you a few moments with the code for you to cross-check your code and make sure you've typed exactly as we have. Please make sure that there are no capital letters, as Python is a case-sensitive language and it will produce an error if you do so. Import in Python is a keyword used to import libraries. Now we're going to run the code, asking for the player 1 name. Now we're going to enter the second player's name.
Rolling the dice. We get the new scores every time we roll the dice. Hey, see, after the three dices, after each player rolled dice for 3 times, we get the winners. I got a score of 14 and then I got a score of 11. You lose, Dhanay.
Oh, damn. If you can recall, we used the time library to create a delay of 5 seconds. That is why it took 5 seconds after every dice roll. I hope you were also able to play the game. Maybe with yourself, but yeah.
Now, libraries in Python. We actually use it before introducing it to you. But yeah, this is the most helpful thing to use in Python. Python library is a collection of functions and methods. With the help of libraries, you don't actually have to go and write your own complex codes. One can just import these libraries in his or her code, just need to call the predefined functions of the library to use it, as we used in the previous code time.sleep. Some of the libraries used in Python are NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Scikit-learn, TensorFlow, and many more. I just want to touch upon some basic yet important libraries in Python. To start with, we have NumPy. NumPy stands for Numerical Python. NumPy is a Python library used for working with arrays. It also has functions for working in domain of linear algebra, Fourier transformation, and matrices. This library is used for scientific computations and vectorized computations, which are easy to implement. Now, coming on to Pandas. Pandas is a high-level data manipulation tool developed by Wes McKinney. It is built on the NumPy package. Pandas also allows us to store and manipulate tabular data in rows of observations and columns of variables. Now coming on to the last library that I'm going to introduce to all of you is Matplotlib. Matplotlib is a comprehensive library for creating static, animated, and interactive visualizations in Python. It can be used to create charts and graphs, like we can plot a pie chart, an area plot, a bar graph, scatter plot, and histograms. Today, analysis of COVID-19 pandemic is one of the most important tasks. Using pandas and matplotlib, you can easily visualize the situation by plotting an interactive and detailed graph.
Now, we're going to address a few of the questions that we received in the chat box. One of them was, what is a parameter, by Yukta Kandari. Parameters are variables that we wish to pass in the function. The value of these variables need to put in while calling the function. Another question that we received was, how are functions built in and where are they saved? Built-in functions are a part of the source code of the language.
When we download Python, it already comes with it, so we can just use it in our code.
If any of you have any further questions, feel free to put them in the chat box.
One of a good frameworks in Python is Django. Django is a high-level Python web development framework used by developers. It is suitable for both front-end and back-end development. So, as I explained, Matplotlib is a comprehensive library for creating static, animated, and interactive visualizations. We can just use the data, analyze it using pandas, and plot the graphs, as it is easier to visualize this situation using Matplotlib. Actually, I've got a next question, which is what is the difference between using double quotes and single quotes? There's absolutely no difference in using the double quotes and single quotes. The strings.
We've got several questions regarding the availability of the session later. And we're glad to tell you that this video, the video of the session will be soon put up on YouTube and the link should be shared soon.
As we have now no more questions, that's all from us, guys.
Thank you so much for staying till the very end. Hope you have a great evening ahead of you. For our next session, next week, we have Suryan Sharma and Harshal Kulkarni as experts on the programming language C. This is Dhanay Turakhia
And this is Saksham Mehta.
signing off. Over to you, Ashi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dhanay and Mr. Saksham. That was a wonderful session. Hope you all enjoyed it and successfully created the game using Python. I request all the attendees to start writing their full names in the chat box for certificate verification and fill the quiz and the feedback form, which has been shared with you in the chat box. You will be receiving the e-certificates within 3 to 4 working days. There will be another webinar on the programming language C by Mr. Harshal Kulkarni and Mr. Suryan Sharma, students of STME NMIMS Indore, on 28th June 2020. The registration link for the webinar will be shared with you shortly. Hoping for your active participation in future webinars as well. Moving towards the end, I would like to thank Dr. Alka Mahajan, Dean, MPSTME, NMIMS University, for taking time out of a busy schedule, our Director Ma'am, Dr. Prachi Gharpure, our Associate Dean and Convener of this webinar, Dr. Akil Banglawala, and the organizing team of the Sunday Tech series. Thank you and have a good day ahead. The session is open for another 10 minutes, so you can write your name in the chat box and fill the quiz and the feedback form. Once again, I would like to inform you all that you will be receiving the e-certificates within 3 to 4 working days only when you complete the quiz and fill the feedback form. Thank you.